Welcome back to the Heat Check Podcast. I am your host, Chris Patrick, and with me today are my beautiful co-hosts as always. We got the Big Doss stunt double, Michael Benjamin. What's going on, man?
What up, what up? How we doing, fellas?
Doing good, doing great. Happy to have you boys back in studio for this live recording. And of course, our third chair here, Hollywood Brown's lawyer, VSP Tallman. Got him out of any fine, just some hours served in the jail cell, huh?
Yeah, that's right. You know, didn't even have to pay the fine. He's $473 richer. How you guys doing?
That's incredible. And anyone knows that Hollywood Brown definitely needs that $473. That probably would have bankrupted him, but guys, it's been a little while, a little over a month since we got together here. We've been doing some live streams, having a lot of fun over on the Valley Sports Plug YouTube page. So anybody who's listening on audio only, make sure you check us out over there, or you're missing out on a lot of content. We try and put as much as we can up on the streaming platforms, the audio only streaming platforms, but sometimes it's not always able to. We got some short videos Michael Benjamin's over here throwing together, so man, we're going to get into some topics tonight. Of course, we got to talk about the big three teams we always discuss, the Diamondbacks, the Suns, and the Cardinals. Also had some March Madness performances, some Arizona teams in there. We're going to talk about how they did, but I just wanted to point out that we're coming up on exactly 1 year since we relaunched Valley Sports Plug. On April 4th will be the anniversary of when we put our first podcast back out there for you. So just in that spirit, reflecting on it, Mike, I'll pass it over to you first. How are you feeling 1 year into Valley Sports Plug?
Feeling really excited about the trajectory and the hard work that we've already been putting into this. You know, super appreciative of all of our friends who have been hopping on to our live streams and joining us. You know, we're only three guys who know so much, so we love to see different perspectives from others in regards to some of our favorite teams. And some of those other teams, you know, like yesterday we did our 2023 MLB preview and we had Raymond and Ian come on. We call them our resident Yankees and Dodgers, you know, aficionados. So it's always cool to see those kind of perspectives. But, you know, really excited. We're coming down towards the end of the Suns season, so our final recaps will be coming out soon. We're going to start doing Diamondbacks bi-weekly recaps, you know, heading out to some games. I know we were already talking about maybe playing hooky and going to a Wednesday day game. So just keeping it flowing, man. You know, the beautiful thing about Valley Sports is that we have all the major teams, so there's always something going on.
Big facts, man. And on top of the professional teams, we got some good college teams out here in the state that are competitive as well. But Tallman, I wanted to give you the floor real quick if there's anything you wanted to say about your first year relaunching VSP and how you're feeling.
Yeah, happy anniversary, guys.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, I wouldn't want to spend it with any other two. You guys are incredible.
Oh, my goodness.
It's been a great time. Time flies when you're having fun, right? And that's it.
Yeah, I think that's like the most important thing, like you guys both said there. We're having fun doing this. I mean, if you look, we've grown to a little over, I think, 120 subscribers on our YouTube channel. From what I see on Spotify, people are tuning in over there as well. So thank you. If you're listening to this, thank you so much for riding with us. We only want to continue that growth, continue to offer you more content and our opinions more than anything on Valley Sports, and hope that I hope that in this year we continue that trajectory and want to hear your feedback. So in the YouTube comments, or you can email us, valleysportsplug@gmail.com. We want to know what you guys want to see. If there's something you don't like that we're doing or you want to see more of, let us know. It's all part of the interactive experience. And Tallman hates when I do this, but I got to plug the socials. You got @AZ_VSP for TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter, and Valley Sports Plug on YouTube and Facebook. And yeah, guys, let's go ahead and get right into it. Like I said there, we had some Arizona teams, college teams in March Madness there. ASU, U of A, and GCU were all unceremoniously eliminated. I think a little bit earlier than we anticipated. Maybe not so much for ASU and GCU, but U of A going out, what was it, the first round, Mike?
Went out to Princeton 59-55 in the first round.
Ooh, they got outsmarted.
That was a 15 seed over a 2 seed?
Mm-hmm.
inexcusable.
Yeah, Mike, and that I want to let you talk on this because that's your alumni right there.
Sure. Yeah. Well, you can give them to me if you want. Yeah. It's, even going through the Pac-12 tournament, which they eventually did win over UCLA, there was just some causes for concerns that I was seeing. There was just too many lackadaisical, efforts on the defensive end and just not enough consistency on the offensive end. And you could specifically talk about Kirk Kriisa. I mean, my goodness, 1 for 7, 1 for 8 in that first round matchup against Princeton. He's entering the portal. He's no longer going to be a part of the program. But those kind of guys who had kind of helped you solidify being one of the, top 10 teams in the country, when they don't come through for you when it's the biggest stage, you see what happens. But it's still inexcusable for any 2 seed to be dropped by a 15 seed and only score 55 points. They weren't ready to play, and it showed early. And I know, Chris, we had our big text chain that was going back and forth, and we were just dumbfounded by that last 5 minutes and the offensive sets that were going on, and they got bounced. So we'll see what happens next. I'm not going to blame Tommy Lloyd or the coaching staff, but you got to get your guys ready and just continue to build the program from there. So we'll reset and figure this one out, I guess.
Yeah, and that's really all you can do. It was really cool to see, those teams in the tournament to begin with, but to bounce out so early, you would have hoped, especially from U of A, to see a bit of a better performance. I mean, I know personally, I think I had U of A being a Final Four team. What you got, Tallman? Oh, I thought you were.
Oh no, I'm saying I had them as a Final Four team.
So you got them as a Final Four team too,
Yeah.
And we saw ASU lose to TCU by just 2 points, where I think
most frustrating game I've ever watched.
Oh my goodness, we were sitting there at the bar, looking like even late into the second half, like ASU might have had it in the bag. And I know you can never count your chickens before they hatch, but God, I mean, what's more disappointing for you, Tallman? I mean, I know you're not exactly a Tucson fan by any means, but was it more disappointing seeing U of A lose to a 15 seed or seeing ASU win that play-in game and then ultimately just lose to TCU like that by 2 points?
So you're asking me if I'm disappointed watching U of A get embarrassed?
Yeah, that's a bad
in
question.
the first round of the
he's excited. What are you talking
NCAA
about?
tournament. No, that was incredible to watch. Obviously ASU, they had all the momentum in that game, and they were the better team, and they just gave it up at the end. And it's too bad. It's too bad. But no, I loved watching U of A lose, even though I gave them some props in the bracket, but it's ASU all the way. Sorry, Michael.
No, that's all right. And maybe ASU used up all their superpowers in that game against Nevada with the shellacking, 25-point win. And like you said, it was almost kind of another similar situation that happened with U of A. Like down the stretch, they just faltered. And they had a pretty nice lead pretty much throughout the entire first half going into the last 4 minutes. And they faltered down the stretch. It was tough, but you give props to all 3 of those teams, U of A, ASU, and GCU, for starting to put Arizona more back on the map, for, stating this is a basketball state, man. We're going to continue to get good recruits, and obviously we'll see what happens with the Pac-12, and GCU is kind of its own entity as a private school, but to see all of them represented is awesome. But now the next steps have to happen. We got to start having one of these schools make a Sweet 16 run or do something else, because it can't just be, we made it, hip, hip, hooray, and then get embarrassed in the first round.
Well, exactly. I think that's like what it really is for me, is like almost like this huge swell of excitement. Like, wow, we got 3 teams in the tournament, and then to just have them all bounce so quickly. And to be fair to GCU, I think they had the toughest hand dealt to them, having to take on Gonzaga in their first round matchup. But still a 12-point game. I mean, for a team like Grand Canyon being the 14 seed against a powerhouse, I think you could call them at this point in Gonzaga, the 3 seed. Props to them for competing and even making the tournament. I think they haven't even been eligible for the tournament for that long, less than 5 years, if I remember correctly. But hopefully we'll continue that momentum and start seeing this become a perennial thing where we have 2-3 teams. And I think Tallman was even telling us like NAU almost made the tournament if they had won their conference, right?
Yeah, the Big Sky Conference, they lost by like 2 points, I think, right at the end.
Tough.
Crazy.
And, yeah, if they would have won that game,
Crazy.
we would have had all 4 major schools. Well, if you can call NAU and GCU a major school in Arizona.
It's
but-
Division One.
Yeah, we'll
right.
call them that.
Yeah,
We'll
okay.
give them their props, right? A little bit. at
In the
least.
state, okay.
Yeah.
Statewide major schools. Almost had all 4.
Right. And before we get off the topic of college basketball, I just 2 things real quick. I want to shout out that ASU did extend Bobby Hurley. He'll be back as ASU's head coach. Like Mike said, Risa entered the transfer portal. Good riddance. Get him out of here. But guys, what are you thinking? Like, the Final Four is set. It's going to be UConn versus Miami and Florida Atlantic taking on San Diego State to set up the final here this coming Monday. I believe the game is. Who do you got going into the weekend?
I think at this point I'm leaning towards UConn. You know, Dan Hurley got some ties with Bobby Hurley, his younger brother. Sonogo is just a stud. And the other crazy thing about this Final Four is that 3 of these 4 teams are having their first Final Four appearance in school history. So I think that's pretty awesome to see. Obviously, they're not the top of the top, the cream of the crop, and that kind of stuff, you know what I mean? But it's also cool. It's Dan Hurley's first Final Four appearance as well. So I'm still leaning towards them, you know, but San Diego State, they had that crazy game against Creighton where they just had the ball bounce the right way for them. And that foul, guys, it was a foul, okay? He got pushed. We're not going to go there anymore. But FAU, their coach, Dusty May, he was a former student manager at Indiana, so that's, you know, some cool information for you guys. And then Miami, I found it surprising. It's actually their first Final Four appearance as well.
Really?
Yeah, Coach Jim Larinaga, he did take George Mason to a Final Four about 17 years ago now, but Miami, if you think about it, they might have a higher combined age for their team than like the Houston Rockets. They have a lot of those like transfer older kind of guys, so I'm not surprised that they made a run.
Guy.
Exactly. But they had a great comeback against Texas, who I know Tallman had picked that was going to be sneaky good in the tournament. And Tallman, I'll give you your props, man. I think you were the only one who made the right calls when we did our predictions and whatnot. But we'll see, man. Saturday can't come soon enough. I'm excited to see who makes it to this championship match.
You mentioned the Texas Miami game there, Mike. We were watching a lot of that together, and when we left the bar we were at and went our separate ways, Texas had a 10-point lead on Miami. So I was kind of writing them into the Final Four, only to find out a couple hours later that Miami came back and beat them by 7. So that says a lot about this Miami team and their mental fortitude to, even with a double-digit point deficit, to be able to come back and overcome that. Tallman, what are you thinking though? Do you agree with Mike that UConn might be the top dog here?
Oh, they're definitely the top dog. I mean, look at all their games throughout the tournament so far. I mean, they've killed everybody. What they did to Gonzaga, that was like criminal, basically. They beat them by like 25 or something. So they haven't had a single tough, close matchup throughout the whole tournament. And to think of some of the teams they're going to be, or the teams remaining, I mean, they're obviously the favorite to win it all here. What I would like to see, though, is our possibly new addition to the Pac-12, San Diego State, make a little run to the final, right? That'd be cool. Get a little, get that exposure, and then next year maybe they join the Pac-12, and that would be a great addition for the Pac-12 basketball programs to have San Diego State just make that huge run. But I don't know. Mike said I was talking a bunch of about the finals. I mean, or the Final Four? Is it bad for college basketball, do you guys think, where you don't have any of those big blue blood, type programs? Alabama's out, Duke's not in it, Kansas is not in it, North Carolina just took a big shit this year.
Yeah.
So it's like, is it bad for college basketball that you have some of these teams where, like you mentioned, they're all older juniors and seniors? They're older teams.
Honestly, this might be controversial, but I think it's almost the opposite. I think it's really good for college basketball because, like you mentioned, those powerhouse schools, Duke, Kentucky, UNC, they've become known for having a lot of one-and-done players where these guys will play 1 year after high school just to use it as a jumping pad to the NBA, whereas now you're getting almost better basketball by having more experience, guys in their early 20s rather than a bunch of 18 and 19-year-olds making these runs and having a kind of like revolving door of talent come through the school. I mean, at least from my perspective, I think it is, I always like a Cinderella story where I think FAU is kind of filling that role this year. We did see, though, with San Diego State barely scraping by Creighton in their matchup. I mean, if a couple bounces went a different way, it could have been a different win. They only got that by 1 point. But to answer your question, and I'm curious what Mike says, I don't think it's bad for the game at all.
I think the tournament is just a different type of entity as well, because, if you're not like a college basketball hoop head, most of the time when the tournament starts, you don't know who these players are. You barely know what schools have been doing good. I mean, like what we were talking earlier, FAU was 32-5 this year. Like that's
35-3.
So even better. That's an incredible record. And
you're calling them Cinderella story too. They won 35 games.
Well, right, but Conference USA isn't known for having the most talent.
I know. I decided to throw it out.
That's fair.
So it's just a different entity. Like the March Madness tournament is a spectacle in its own. So I think it's good to have some blue bloods in there, right? Because, for the average fan, they're like, oh yeah, I know my Kentuckys, I know my Dukes, I know my Kansases, but I don't think it hurts it either, because we're still going to watch, because these games are so nitty gritty and these guys are literally leaving everything on the floor. And these are going to be some of the best basketball games that we have coming up, because these are the teams that have put it all together in this stretch run. So they're playing their best basketball. So like Chris said, you're probably going to see some of the best basketball that we can this late into a season. But yeah, man, the landscape of college sports in general is going to be changing, and you can see it's already started to change now just with these NIL deals. Guys are going to have more incentive to stay through more years unless they're known to be, a high top 10 draft pick in the NFL or a lottery pick in the NBA and that kind of stuff. Because
sure,
you can look at guys like Arch Manning. He's making $2.4 million and he hasn't even played it down for Texas college football yet.
It's the last name.
Obviously, it's the last name, but
right,
we're starting to see more of these kids who are like on the swimming team or this or that, and they're making good deals. I mean, Tallman, who was that one guy that you were
really
talking about that
money.
made $800K?
Oh, I don't know his name, but some kid on Florida Atlantic, he had some big NIL deal.
Unless that guy knows that he's going to go to the NBA or go overseas and make some good money, it's probably more incentive to stay in college, because you can continue to, cash those checks while you're still at school. And then those programs continue to build and grow from there. So I think it's, hindsight's always 20/20. Yeah, we want the blue bloods, but I don't think it hurts the game to have an FAU go this far. And that's also something that we're probably going to see within years to come as well. Those George Masons. Chris, who was your favorite one? The Golden Retrievers.
UMBC, I think.
We're going to see more schools like that make crazy runs in these tournaments, because they're going to have older guys who, have built camaraderie with their squads and are built for this time of year. So it'll be interesting to see the landscape over the next couple of years.
No, absolutely. I agree. And I'm excited for this Final Four. I think it is that aspect of not having one of these perennial powerhouse schools in the Final Four makes it kind of, in some ways, an open, whatever you want to call it. Open, I'm fucking it up. I might cut that out. But it's anybody's game. I mean, I think UConn is the pick. That's probably, if we were to do a Final Four bracket, that's who I'd be picking. But we'll see this weekend. I mean, we'll know here pretty soon by next week, and we'll have to talk about it probably on our roundtable we do next week there. But man, we went a lot longer on this college basketball topic than I really anticipated. So let's roll right into this next subject, which is the MLB opening day is today as we're recording this on Thursday, March 30th. The Diamondbacks just started their game, and I was looking on Bally's, looking on YouTube TV, and I'm not seeing the game being broadcast anywhere, so I just have absolutely no idea where the game is being played. But they're taking on the Dodgers. They started that game as we're recording this, and I'm just really, I know I don't want to speak for you guys, but I'm going to speak for you guys. I think we're all excited for this young core and this D-backs team. In the past year, last year we made progression over the previous year, and this year I anticipate us doing the same. So right off the top of this, along this line of us being a sneaky good team potentially, or improving team, Tallman, let me ask you this. I think I asked you on the stream last night, but do you think that the Diamondbacks will reach 500?
Yes, we're gonna win 85 games.
like
that is my prediction.
I like that a lot.
Okay,
maybe 86, maybe 87, but yeah, we're definitely. I think they're gonna pull off a couple win streaks. I feel. And oh man, they already got 2 on in the top of the first. Look at that.
let's go, man. I mean, a lot of young talent from Corbin Carroll to, help me out, Mike.
Jake McCarthy, Alec Thomas,
Gabriel Moreno.
Yep.
Even though he's kind of been thrust into the position with the injury with Carson Kelly, but yeah, there's just a lot of promise with the youth on this team, and
Jordan Lawler.
He'll
He'll probably make an appearance later in the season.
And obviously, I think the firepower will come with time, but it's still going to come down to the pitching staff and the bullpen. Excited to see Zach Gallen finally get his, just desserts in that opening day start. Unfortunately, Merrill Kelly did falter in the WBC Classic, but he's another guy who had a pretty solid year last year, so he's going to be expected to step up. And it looks like we scored a run already, so let's go, baby.
Christian Walker.
The expectations is always continue your trajectory up, right? So we had a 22-game improvement last year, from 2021. So we got to continue to make those steps and hopefully push for a wild card. It's going to be so tough, though, with this NL West, man. The Padres are stacked. The Dodgers are the Dodgers. Even though we're winning right now, I love it. Even though Longoria, hits into a double play.
Yeah.
But giving you some play-by-play action here. But I like the additions of Lourdes Gurriel and Gabriel Moreno. We'll see Kyle Lewis at DH as well.
I don't mean to cut you off. Did you guys know Kyle Lewis won Rookie of the Year in 2020 for the AL?
I did not, but I love it.
Yeah, I was like, what? I had no idea he won that. Obviously, he struggled a little bit after that and was able to get signed for a 1-year, $1.6 million deal with the Diamondbacks. But hey, he's got some accomplishments there.
We'll take it. And then, I think the biggest exciting part about the majors this year is the ability of all these teams to play everyone. And I just think that's going to open up competitive advantages for some teams. Like the Dodgers won 111 games last year because they got to play the Rockies 25 times and us 25 times. You know what I mean? Like, I was already talking about this last night. I think it was after stream, but we're playing the Dodgers 8 of the first 10 games.
Why?
How does that happen, Major League Baseball? Like, come on, guys. Let's figure that one out. And I know they're working out the kinks with that kind of stuff, but that shouldn't be happening to start a season. You're basically getting all of those out to start. I mean, teams are just still kind of trying to figure out who they are. So I'd love to have more of those matchups down the line, in August, September timeframe. But very excited, man. Very, very excited to see what this young core can do this year.
And that could work to our advantage, though, being able to play the Dodgers so many times early in the season where they're still trying to find their footing. Like we were talking about with Raymond, I mean, they're a team that's kind of trying to figure it out and didn't have quite the offseason that we expected. I mean, they lost Trey Turner and a few other key pieces, Justin Turner, the Mr. Muppet Man that Cody loves so much. But
that was mean.
It's not to say, though, that they don't have pieces. Obviously, they added a guy like Freddie Freeman, who's an incredible player, and they still have pieces, right? Don't get me wrong. Cody Bellinger was another one they let go, but he had been having a few down
he's hot and
seasons.
cold.
Yeah.
I saw him hit a home run on Sunday.
Did you?
Yeah.
Valley kid, though, we love to see the hometown guys doing well, even if it's on the Dodgers. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Did I see that David Peralta is in a Dodger uniform now?
He is disgusting.
That is gross,
Is it
dude.
Freight Train?
Dude, I feel like that happens so often, though.
Yeah.
You know, like JD Martinez was only here for a little bit, but he's on the Dodgers
half a
now.
season,
Like
right?
AJ Pollock.
AJ Pollock, yeah, that was who I was
You
thinking
know, that
of.
just it seems like it's inevitability.
At least Goldie didn't end up as a Dodger.
Thank goodness. Yeah, stay in St. Louis, even though it's in the NL. Stay over there.
No, but I'll take it. You know, honestly, out with the old, in with the new. Peralta was reaching his mid to late 30s, and he had a lot of productive years for us. But baseball is really what have you done for me lately kind of sport. And if you're not producing, especially at a high level, like, sorry, bud, like it's time for you to go. And I know that was a hard move to make, but when you're talking about how much you're going to pay a guy, I would rather save the money for a guy like Corbin Carroll, who could be here for the next 10 years or longer, depending on how things go. Now, I don't have the figures in front of me, probably should, but we just threw a pretty good bag at Corbin, right?
It was 111 million, 8 years,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yep.
8 years, 111.
I'll take it, man. That's like a steal, to
Right.
be honest with you, with some of these contracts that these higher profile guys are getting nowadays.
Yeah, no, absolutely, 100%. And to pair him with guys that are already fairly well established, I mean, when you're talking about the offense, like Ketel Marte has been here for a while now. Christian Walker, I thought he was a younger guy, but he's 30 or 31 now. And so it's the new guard, man. It's the changing of the guard. And so I'm curious to see how they do. I think our bullpen is going to play a big part of it. We still have the big con Melanson in the bullpen. I think he's injured to start the season, but I keep saying it, we got the sheriff back. I'm a big Andrew Chafin fan. I think he's clean shaven now though, isn't he?
I don't know. That's good. That's a good question.
I don't know, but Tallman, I know you're what you predicted 85 wins potentially. Is that
84?
84?
Let's go 84.
84 now.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Is that enough to get us a wild card spot potentially?
Ooh, oh, no, probably not. I would say no.
No, Mike.
No, I don't think
I want to
so.
be optimistic so bad, but
So do I, but I
it's-
also
yeah.
go back to my predictions for the Cardinals, and I'm not doing that anymore. You know what I'm saying?
I think
They're going to be 11-6.
right. I think as for me, as long as we continue to improve and improve our record over last season, I'll be okay with it. I know Torey Lovello was under a lot of scrutiny, especially last season, with kind of how it's been disappointing the past couple of seasons. You know, we went from having a exciting playoff contending team in the Paul Goldschmidt era with Zach Greinke and all those guys to now the questionable decision of bringing in Madison Bumgarner, who's been a bum, and moves where we've gotten rid of these guys who've been the face of the franchise. So it's almost like we're going to talk about the Cardinals later on here in the podcast, but it's almost like we were in a rebuild, and now it's like, are we coming out of the rebuild, or are we fortifying?
We're fortifying. And you mentioned Bumgarner. If they didn't owe him so much money, he wouldn't be on the team right now.
True
But
story.
it's at the point,
Right.
they're
can't
at the
get
point
rid of
where
him.
it's even if you cut him, you still owe him the money. Might as well keep him on
Well,
and see what he can give you.
Cut him, and what could you trade him for? Like,
No one's
you'd have to
trading.
eat some of that money.
Yeah, no one's you know. Obviously, we haven't heard anything. There's no rumors, but you know they probably shopped him. I mean, how do you not? But to have somebody as established as him as your third rotation guy, I mean, let's see what he does. You know. And then I didn't realize that Merrill Kelly's actually older than him.
That's what's so crazy is
But he debuted way.
Bumgarner's
later.
had been so successful with the Giants for so long. Like, you just assumed he was almost 40 years old.
Yeah,
but
like 36.
I think he's pretty
37.
close to Mike's age.
Yeah, he's like
Little
31,
doxing there.
32.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah, I mean, Madison Bumgarner was a stud. He was, an ace on those 3 World Series championship teams for the Giants, but he's at the end of his time frame here, guys. Like, that's the truth. So
Yeah.
I'm okay with slotting him in the third spot in the rotation. That's middle of the pack, right? Let's see what you can get out of him. Maybe he goes kind of 500 with his record. That'll be okay. It's definitely better than what we've seen from him so far.
Yeah, but he's better than your guy in the 5th spot. So I mean,
Right.
If you got an investment in him, don't have anyone better than him, then I mean you're kind of stuck, right? So we're stuck with him, unfortunately.
And we'll see what comes about from the farm system and whatnot. And I think that still the biggest question mark is going to be that bullpen, right? You know, we had all of those, like, what, .300 winning percentage where we were winning or tied after the 6th inning, and you could basically mark it in that we were going to find a way to blow it. So if you can bump that up to 500, whatever, you know, you're going to win 15 more games. And the whole thing about this year is let's make sure we're not out of it at the end of May. You know, let's be trying to possibly fight for a wild card spot towards the end of August and playing through September. That's all you can ask for, because we already understand those top 2 teams with the Dodgers and Padres, there's one wild card spot right there.
Yeah.
So it's an uphill battle, but as long as you're fighting towards the end of the season and maybe some lucky bounces go your way, you know, that's a win as a whole, I'd say.
Without a doubt. I mean, and that's what I was just going to say, and I'm glad you brought that up. I think for me, the goal would be to at least to shoot to finish third. You're probably not going to beat out the Dodgers. You're not going to beat out the Padres, but beat out the Giants and beat out the Rockies. That's an achievable goal. Record aside, whether we're 500 or above, I think beating those teams and staking your claim is important, as well as building the camaraderie, getting these young guys the playing time and the exposure to where a year, 2 years from now, maybe 3 years from now, we could finish second or even have lofty expectations of finishing first. We were talking to Raymond in the season preview about the Shohei Ohtani sweepstakes, and there's going to be a lot of teams, you know, going after him. And I think the Dodgers are a team that definitely has potential because Shohei wouldn't even have to move. He's already in LA playing for the Angels. But he's going to be chasing a big bag of cash, about $500 million of a contract or more, probably more if we're being honest. I don't want to get too, you know, into Shohei Ohtani necessarily, but it's going to be an interesting season, and I'm really excited for it. Like we've been talking about, we did this live stream last night, so if you want to hear more baseball-specific commentary, go ahead and check out that live stream we did. That video is posted on our YouTube channel, and the audio is on Spotify. But before we get off this baseball topic, guys, I was hearing today, I don't know if it was Ken Kendrick or Derek Anderson who went on one of the 98.7 shows today and was saying that within the next 2 or 3 months, they're going to make a decision on what they're going to do with Chase Field, whether they're going to stay or go. Tallman, I'll ask you first. Should they stay or should they go?
Should I stay or should I go? I did see that today too. Is his name Derek Anderson?
Yeah, I think that's the GM, right? Derek. Oh, it's
Derek Anderson.
He was a quarterback, right?
Well, Derek Anderson, and I think he was a pitcher for the Diamondbacks in the 2001 World Series team.
It's something Anderson, though, isn't it?
Right?
Oh, I just read it too. Anyway, they gotta stay, man. I mean, Mike Hazen. You already said that.
I did not say Mike Hazen.
Yeah, Mike Hazen's his GM. They gotta stay downtown. It's just. I mean, come on. I mean,
Derek Hall.
Derek Hall.
There you go. CEO.
You said Derek.
So I had the Derek. I had the Derek
Anderson.
right.
I was like, whoa. Hold on. All right, Derek.
We know sports here. We know sports.
Yeah. Hold on. But I mean, we all grew up in this city. It's like it was a thing to go downtown, to go to Bank One Ballpark, Chase Field. I mean, it's iconic in the Valley, and you know, going downtown, you got Footprint Center where the Suns play. You got Chase Field, Diamondbacks play.
It's prime real estate down there.
Oh, and it's fun down there too. And then to think of them to go out, we're going to build a stadium somewhere else in Maricopa County and spend even more money than on just renovating our current home. They're going to go build a stadium out, you know, like the Cardinal Stadium, where there's going to be nothing around it for the first 4 or 5 years or something, and then finally, you know, Cardinal Stadium, they built Westgate and all that stuff around it, and there's stuff to do. But, you know, it's just you're in, like you said, Chris, there's prime real estate. They got to stay. It's iconic, and it's downtown. That's where you want to be.
I don't see any reason why you wouldn't want to stay down there. You're absolutely right, Tallman. To do a complete renovation, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility to be able to salvage that. And again, off stream, we were talking about how cool is it that there's a pool at Chase Field. Like, I think it kind of started maybe as like a joke or something that people didn't take seriously, but now it's kind of like a staple. It's one of the things we're known for. And whether it's having fans out there in the pool or hitting a home run into the pool or being angry that the Dodgers are celebrating by jumping into our pool, it's iconic. And there's a lot of things I love about that stadium. Yeah, you can talk about how the capacity is way too big. There shouldn't be 43,000 seats in that stadium. So I think part of a potential renovation should be blasting 10,000 seats out of that stadium and doing something cool with it.
I mean, that's what the Suns did, right? They transitioned pieces of their arena to basically kind of like, you know, a bar area or just like a lounge area where people can come grab a drink, talk, and still see the game.
Sure.
You know, we can talk about what the Coyotes did. If you're talking about going somewhere kind of out within Maricopa County or in Glendale or just outside central Phoenix for 80 games that people have to attend to, and then you're trying to ask people to go to a Wednesday day game out in Santan Valley, I mean, good luck. You're going to find the same type of issues that happened with the Coyotes where they had to go more towards
I would go
Don't say it, Tallman.
Don't say it, Tallman. You're going to find the same issues where the Coyotes found themselves going more towards a centralized location that's closer to downtown Phoenix because it's still a hub of the Phoenix metro area.
It's very accessible.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and obviously, I think we're still waiting to see what happens with the Coyotes. I know that they did the votes to move things forward, but I don't think anything's official, and it's going to be
City of Phoenix.
Yeah, there's a challenge from the city of Phoenix.
and it's going to be years away from that, but like at least there's a silver lining that can be found at the end of that. If the Diamondbacks leave, you know, you're going to still find those same type of issues, man. I'm telling you, but I'm with you, Chris. Get 10K seats out of there. I mean, but it also, like, for a season, it depends, right? Because it's hard to get continuously packing those stadiums when
Sure.
you have that many games, right? But it also helps when your team is good and is a winner, right? You see
Yeah.
with the Suns right now, they're on like a 50-plus sellout streak. You know, people are buying tickets at $300 a pop to go see the Utah Jazz on a Tuesday night. But that's because the Suns are great. And there's also only 40 games within the season. And it's in downtown Phoenix. It's more centralized for people to go to. So you got to stay there, man. Invest the money in the ceiling. Fix that crap, whatever. Take out seats.
Yeah.
Do what you got to do instead of spending more billions of dollars to break ground on a new place, which who knows would be successful or not.
I think that would be the wrong move, Tallman. Were you going to say something?
No, go ahead.
Okay,
Sorry.
so I think I've had a lot of time to think about this and gotten some real interesting perspective. And let me know if I'm being Captain Obvious here, but the Suns are a little bit of an outlier when it comes to talking about the Cardinals, the Diamondbacks, and the Coyotes, where the Suns have been here since I think the 60s or 70s.
1967, yeah.
There you go, 1967. So they're established. Anyone who grew up here during that time period was a Suns fan, whereas these other teams rolled in here in the late 90s or so, and all these people that grew up here had to be fans of other teams, whether it was the Cowboys or the Dodgers or the Steelers, and they passed that down to generation. So like Ian pointed out last night, about Shohei not wanting to go to New York, or maybe not wanting to play for a big market team, but being on the Angels, which is a big market, but it's not a big market when you talk about the actual, what they're considering the market of the team, not the market of the city. Because if you're talking about the market of the city, that's the Dodgers. They hold a monopoly on that in Los Angeles. And it's the same for Phoenix. Like, that's why we always sit here and scratch our heads. And I know I've been guilty of saying it in the past, is how are the Suns a small market? The Phoenix is like the 5th biggest metropolitan area in the entire country, but it's because there are so many transplants and these people don't have love for our sports teams. It's the fair weather nature of it, to where, sure, we might be the second favorite team of a lot of these people. They'll be like, yeah, I'm a Yankees fan. I was raised a Yankees fan, always have been. But when the Diamondbacks are doing well, they'll go out to a Diamondbacks game. Fuck yeah. So it's just how I think it's going to take decades and it's going to take generations before we really see diehard D-backs fans like us, because we were all born and raised out here in the Valley. We've been D-backs fans since we were kids. But what's crazy is the Diamondbacks weren't even here when we were born, technically. You know? I mean, am I off base with that assessment?
They weren't even a team yet.
They weren't even a team yet. I think 97 is when they broke down on or 96 they broke ground on the stadium. 97 was the inaugural season.
98.
98 was the inaugural season, so it might be flipped that 7 and then.
I think you're onto something for sure. I mean, because none of the teams can compare to the Cardinals. It's like there's so many diehard Cardinals fans, and they make such a what am I looking? What's the word I'm looking for? It's a whole day thing to go out to a Cardinals game. You know, you tailgate. There's all this other stuff. You know, it's only on Sunday, right? So the Cardinals have no problem selling tickets.
Right, 8 games a season. Fuck yeah. You'll make the day trip out there. You make a whole day of it.
Yeah, they can not win a home game for 10 games in a row, whatever their shitty streak was. But they're still going to sell tickets. Doesn't matter. But you're right. With the Diamondbacks, it's like they just struggle with that passionate, fan base where we can sit here and say, yeah, we're D-backs fans and all that, but I didn't go to a game last season.
I haven't been to a game in probably 2 or 3 seasons, and
so we're the ones to blame at the end of the day. But no, you're absolutely right. Why haven't we gone? Because, I mean, I would jump at the first opportunity I get to go to a Suns game. Why? Because they're good and they're relevant, and we got Kevin Durant. They're making splash moves. They're doing this and that. We're self-inflicting the self-market name or
the
term.
Small market. Yeah,
we're doing that to ourselves in a sense of ownership and how much money they want to spend on the team. I mean, if they sat out there and they shelled out $500 million like the Texas Rangers did in the last 2 years, don't you think if we signed one of these big names and signed someone else and did whatever, we've been actively trying to build this team, and we'd be like, shit, let's go to the first home game.
That's
I can't wait to see these guys play.
That's the thing, though. There's no salary cap in baseball, so it just comes down to how much the owner wants to spend money. And Ken Kendrick has shown that he wants to be cheap, and he wants to try and moneyball it in a big... I know I'm saying it's not a big market, but like Phoenix is a big market where you can make money in other places in the stadium and surrounding areas. I mean, Mike, are we off base here?
No, you guys are right. But also at the same time, like if you're going to stay at Chase Field, there's a lot of renovations that need to be done. That's a lot of extra money. So I'm sure he's trying to hold on to the piggy bank for that kind of stuff.
Well, they said they wanted to shell out the money to do it.
Well, and do like the Suns did, make a deal with the city of Phoenix where they pony up some money for it.
Exactly. And I think what Derek Anderson would say.
Derek Hall
would say, I'm kidding, was they wanted to pay for most of it.
Right.
Like they're like, hey, we want to stay here. We want to rebuild this stadium and make it like it used to be, one of the best, stadiums in baseball when it first opened. But I don't know. I guess we're going to find out in a month or two.
Well, and I think that's crazy. Like Mike, you're pointing out, like, I think since the building opened in 98, it's had very minimal renovations to where, I don't know if it's still the case, but in the last 2 years, they wouldn't even open the roof with fans in the stadium because it was too dangerous.
It's still like
that because they're afraid the cables, these 20-year-old cables are going to snap and cut someone's head off. That's embarrassing. And we just saw that we were ranked like the 27th worst stadium in the league. That's horrible. You know what the best stadium in the league was PNC Park out in Pittsburgh.
Oh, please.
Was it really?
Hey, we might get a chance to go to a Pirates game if we make it out there later this year.
It depends when the Cardinals are playing the Steelers. Yeah, if it's in September, early in the season,
if it works
season
out,
could be going on. Dude, imagine the freaking cables like chopping people up. That's like Ghost Ship. That's a deep cut for you.
That's like some Final Destination.
I was just about to say that. Today is your day.
Well, enough about the Diamondbacks stadium chopping people's heads off. Let's keep it moving right along here. We got the Phoenix Suns, right? They're about to be in the playoffs. They're currently 4th in the West. A tight Western Conference, especially when you're looking at those last 5-6 teams. But we got 6 games left. Tomorrow we'll take on the Denver Nuggets. So if you're listening to this, that's I think 5 games in April that we're looking at. But Kevin Durant finally made his home debut here yesterday on Wednesday night against the Minnesota Timberwolves, where he didn't quite have the sexiest performance. He was 5 of 18 from the field, scored 16 points, and had a couple 3-pointers mixed in there. Sounds like, or looks like rather, that he kind of found his stride late there, but better late than never. I mean, first game back, finally able to play at home, didn't roll his ankle in pregame. Mike, what do you think our chances are of making a deep push here?
Dude, it's honestly crazy to see the ridiculous ebbs and flows this team has had. I mean, we lose KD, and it's like we forgot how to play some ball, man. Like, another losing streak that we're seeing and just struggling. But within that time frame, we didn't lose any ground on our seeding. We've been in 4th place basically this entire time. And now we're starting to stack up some wins, but these last 6 games are still going to be crucial. And we have to play the Nuggets twice. Last game of the season is against the Clippers. That could be a deciding game because right now we're only a half game in front of the Clippers for that 4th spot. But you could tell KD had some rust last night. I don't think he had his first actual basket made until about 5 minutes left in the second quarter. But he had some big shots down the stretch. And that's the guy that we're going to need. I mean, dude, I'm telling you, man, if all 4 of these guys aren't healthy, Ayton, Paul, Booker, and KD, I think you count us out. Like, we already saw with losing one of them, obviously KD you can argue is the biggest piece, other than Devin Booker. We could barely stay afloat. And I've been very happy with what Booker has done this past month. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up being the NBA Player of the Month for the Western Conference. But it's all up to them, man. It's all up to staying healthy. And, I'd love to get a playoff series at home to start. And then, the West is so wide open. We've had so many conversations about this. But, those top 3 teams don't really scare me. I know we lost to the Kings the other day, but that was a choke job by the Suns. I don't know what you're going to get out of the Memphis Grizzlies yet. I still think they're a little bit young and still trying to truly find their footing. And then the Nuggets, until they can prove that they can do anything in the playoffs, I just don't trust anything that they do at this point. But, we could see, if we stay in the 4 seed, we win that series. One of those top seeds might lose to, the 6 or 7, and then we could have another series with the home court advantage. And I'd love that. So got to stay strong down the stretch here.
I think, finishing strong is going to be a huge factor. I more or less agree with what you said there, Mike. I think that if Chris Paul went out, we could probably still survive and be a competitive team in the West and in the NBA. I know he is our point guard, obviously, and he controls the pace of play. And to some extent, I do worry about his backups. I mean, Cam Payne is not a solid guy by any means. He's probably one of the most inconsistent players on this roster. And I think just talking about inconsistency, that's one of the things that makes me the most nervous is our bench. Guys like Torrey Craig, TJ Warren, Terrence Ross. These guys aren't always the most consistent when they're getting their minutes, to where Monty has had to kind of try out a bunch of different rotations to see what sticks. But it's gonna really come down to who can stay healthy and who can be available. I think that having KD back is the catalyst for us to be able to make a push in this playoffs, because you're right, without him, we just look pretty helpless all in all. But we did have some big wins with that win against Philadelphia, Utah, and Minnesota. 3 wins in a row that we really needed. I don't want to say desperately needed, but that's kept us in the 4th spot and trending towards being a top or a higher seed in the playoffs, where we should have home series to start the playoffs. What do you think, Tallman?
Ooh, I want to. The one thing that jumped out to me of what you said, I don't know about Chris Paul. I think they need Chris Paul. I mean, he does the game runs through him, but I mean, when he pulls up and does that little 14-foot jump shot, he makes it 95% of the time when we need a bucket. I think it's huge. But one player instead of Chris Paul, I think they could do it without DA. You need Booker, Durant, and Chris Paul to all stay healthy. As long as we have the 3-headed dragon, in my opinion, I think that's absolutely what they need. I don't think they can do it without Paul.
So you trust Bismack and Jock to hold down the center position?
Because Paul can make his shots when he needs to. He can get Durant and Booker the ball, and then he can play the 2-man game with whoever the big guy is down low. All he's got to do is throw some tall guy underneath the basket the ball, and he's got to take a step and put it in like he does with Durant, with Ayton. So I don't know, guys. I just looked at the standings.
4th, right?
They're 4th, but the 6th place team only has one less win than them.
Yeah,
like it's so great. Has it? I don't think you guys are the basketball guys. Has it ever been that tight before?
I mean,
it's
historically
kind of
speaking,
crazy. And
I'm sure it has, but right? No, go ahead.
yeah, well, no, I'm just saying I've been watching ESPN and all the dudes on there talking about the NBA. They're going crazy. This is our nuts postseason run or whatever. It's just, I don't know. I just think it's a little scary. I think Durant came back at the perfect time. But Devin Booker, man, I think he's just a stud, and he showed it again. I mean, with Durant on the floor, like Booker just gets so much less harassed, and he's able to play his brand of basketball finally because he has that superstar to take some attention away from him. And the 3 games or now 4 games he's played with Durant, he's had some of the best games that we've seen all season out of him.
Without a doubt. And I think that's my point, though, with the fact that I think we can survive and be competitive without Chris Paul is because Chris Paul's not taking any attention off Devin Booker. Kevin Durant is the guy that takes the attention off Devin Booker. And sometimes, in my opinion, having the offense run through a 36-year-old or 38-year-old point guard, however the hell old he is.
In 6 weeks, he'll be 38.
Right. So 38. There you go.
Yeah.
So it slows down the pace of the game where I get it. He's your point guard. He's the point god. You want him to be able to facilitate the offense, but it's a fine line between him, running the show and almost maybe hindering our ability to have a quicker, a more efficient offense at times, where I think he's trying to set something up where KD and Book could just make it happen using their basketball instincts. I mean, Kevin Durant's not a young guy either. I think he's 34 or something like that. So he's getting up there, but he's a 7-footer. He's a point forward without a doubt. I just think I kind of agree though. Like, I would rather, don't get me wrong, I'd rather Chris Paul be healthy because I don't trust our backups. I don't trust Campaign.
Campaign, yep. So, yeah, who do you trust more, Campaign or Jock Landale? I'm not saying, someone's going to get hurt. I mean, hopefully they're all healthy right now playing, right? Healthy,
yeah.
Quotation marks.
So you're basically posing the question of, would I rather Chris Paul or DeAndre Ayton go out if I had to pick one and to trust their backup,
in a
right?
playoff series, yeah.
In a playoff series. No, that's a great point. I think I'd have to say I would trust Jock Landale more than I would trust Campaign. So losing Ayton, in a sense, wouldn't be the end of the world. And I think a lot of that, though, is more of a referendum on DeAndre Ayton and his inability to be consistent as a starter. Because I can almost live with an inconsistent bench player or guy coming off the bench, but you can't live with an inconsistent starter. And that's what DeAndre Ayton's become, if we're being honest. Like, he's that double-double guy sometimes where he's putting up 25 and 12, but he's also that guy that'll put up 8 and 6 in 35 minutes of play. And you just can't have that from your starting center.
He's in such a tough scenario, man, because with Booker and Durant, they both command the ball and they're going to be taking 18 to 20 plus shots a game. So that's just less touches around. I mean, you look at the game last night, he played 29 minutes and he's still coming back from an injury, but he takes 9 shots. Like, the whole point was supposed to be he's going to be getting so many more easier looks, but the Suns have just struggled to find a way to implement him truly within the offense. And like you guys said, I mean, on the offensive end, you really don't need him, right? Because Booker and KD are just 2 high prolific scorers who can score at any spot on the floor, where it's just the cherry on top with DeAndre Ayton. But the biggest thing that I was hoping for was his impact on the defensive end. And it's still the same song and dance that we've had for the past couple of years, where it's about he picks and chooses when he wants to bring the energy and when he wants to make the right play, or it's getting old, man. And I know I've definitely been one of those guys who's been a proponent for DeAndre Ayton and saying I think that there's still a next level that he can go to, and I'll always still hold hope for him. But once again, the same conversations that we had before. It's year 5, and the dude is just still trying to see what's going on the floor.
Yeah.
And he doesn't impact himself. Like, he doesn't truly make his presence known as a dominant force. And that's an issue for a guy who was taken with the number 1 overall pick and given a max contract this offseason. So, future, if we look into the future, honestly, man, I wouldn't be surprised if the Suns work to try and ship him out this offseason and if he's even going to be part of these future plans for the Suns. But yeah, I mean, the whole bench unit has been inconsistent. We did start to get better stints out of Terrence Ross and TJ Warren, specifically on the offensive end in our past couple of wins. Campaign has done a little bit better as well, but you're almost just always like, well, what? It's a matter of time before
Streaky.
they're going to have just some weird decisions, and then they're going to go off of a cliff for a 5-game stint. And that's just what you can't have in the playoffs, or else you lose. So the last thing is, thank God that Durant wasn't out for the entirety of the regular season, because if you're trying to bring him back, I know we've talked about he's the perfect plug-and-play guy. That's great, but you still need to build camaraderie on the floor. And now to have 7 games or 6 remaining games to do that gives you more confidence going into the playoffs that this team is going to be able to gel and figure it out and make a really, really deep playoff push, where I think when it was announced that KD was coming back, the Suns' odds jumped up to the number 1 to come out of the Western Conference. So a lot of people are with the Suns, and I'm just hoping and crossing my fingers, man. That's it.
Well, right. And you saw, I think, on the national media stage, Jay Williams, Colin Cowherd, people like that, soon as KD comes back, they're all singing the Suns' praises again. It's just like we saw with when we made that trade to get him. They automatically put us as the number 1 or number 2 team to win it all. And so I think KD is obviously the catalyst. We can have these conversations about if we don't have Chris Paul or if we don't have DeAndre Ayton. But you're absolutely right, Mike. Year 5, it's not unfair to compare DeAndre Ayton to the other guys that were big names in his class, specifically Luka Doncic and Trae Young. Those guys are leading their teams and are the best players on their team.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Yeah. DeAndre Ayton is maybe the 3rd best player on our team, probably the 4th best player, and that's not saying too much at this point. Yeah, he got the money. Yeah, he got the contract, but we got to see more from him. And I think this playoff run, this postseason, is going to be a chance for him to really prove himself and prove that he was worth it and that he can be a part of this team's future post CP3, post Kevin Durant, or even with those guys. But we could talk about that. We can talk about that all night, and we're going to talk about it more as we record our April episode of the Heat Check podcast and our live streams. And just a few more things I wanted to talk about with the Suns. A big point of contention and topic has been the fouling and the free throw discrepancies that we've been seeing, where Monty Williams even made a comment in his post-game interview I'm not going to mince words, complaining about the discrepancy, and it's not, in my opinion, unfair. And a lot of people like Dan Bickley are going to say that the Suns need to just stop complaining and they need to be more aggressive, and that we're being punished for being the mid-range mafia and that our game isn't so much inside. But Mike, I know you. I want to pass this back to you. Like, is that basketball where you're forced to have to drive the lane and go at the rim to get these foul calls and have teams shooting 30, 40 free throws a game? Like, that's not basketball, in my opinion.
No, and there's always been that preferential treatment for your stars, and like we're talking to was that specific game against the Milwaukee Bucks where Giannis himself outshot the Phoenix Suns from the foul line. I think Giannis had 24, and the Suns had 16 attempts total in that game. And Monty had came out and basically said, Drew Holiday, one of the most physical defenders in the league, and Booker's only getting 3 free throw attempts?
Ridiculous.
How is that possible? And I love those people who say you shouldn't complain, you shouldn't complain. I think there's a way to approach referees about calls, and there's times where you just have to stop looking like a crybaby, like Luka Doncic does a lot of the time. There was times where within the past 2 weeks, Booker was doing that same thing, but I think they almost kind of had a come to Jesus moment where they were like, okay, we put our grievances out to the air. Monty got his fine. And from that, we've kind of started to see a shift with that in regards to, I wouldn't say better officiated games. It's just been more even, which is what you're hoping for.
That's all you want, really.
At the NBA level.
Yeah.
These are the best players in the game, man. You can't tell me that one team really fouls more than another. Like, these guys, to some similar extent, are at a level playing field and are the smartest players in this game, where they understand where they can get away with some things, and then there's like clear hacking fouls and that kind of stuff. But I love the people who say, don't complain. Well, hey, Monty complained, and look what's happened the past 5 games. It's calmed down. Look what Fred VanVleet did again for what was the guy?
We talked
Ben
about
Taylor?
Ben Taylor, yeah.
So
what happened
funny.
with him? They literally cut part of
Demoted.
his. They demoted him and they cut him.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know. Maybe complaining sometimes does do something, but obviously that's the last thing you want to do. And I have started to see that Booker has started to shift his approach towards officials, which is smart too, because you're talking about an older guy in this league. You got to figure out a proper way and proper etiquette to approach officials, because the age-old saying with referees is, man, let me tell you, these guys have egos, and that will never change, man. Referees have egos, especially at the highest level. So if they don't like you, they might not come out and show it directly, but like on the back end, sometimes that they might just hold a whistle, or they'll push things against you. So they're human too, and you got to approach them the right way.
No, absolutely. And I think I hate to give Luka Doncic the benefit of the doubt, because you're right. He does complain more than any player I've ever seen in NBA history. Literally every single play he complains about not getting a call or something, this and that. But we saw earlier this week where he got what would have been his 16th technical of the year and a suspension, but they ended up rescinding it after Mark Cuban disputed it. But I gotta admit, man, watching, I don't know what he said to the ref, but watching it looked like he was going up for a jump shot, felt like he was fouled, looked at the ref and shrugged and said something, and then turned to go down the court, and the ref teed him up, man. It's like, at what point are the refs trying to be a part of the game and trying to get some sort of attention? It shouldn't be that way. Like, you're there making good money as an official, as an NBA official, and I honestly, I don't, maybe I'm speaking out of pocket, but I think some of this has to go back to Adam Silver being not a great commissioner of this league. I just don't understand how he's not going to try and improve the game in that regard. Yeah, he's done a good job of growing the NBA brand globally, but when it comes down to these types of things, like, how are you not addressing it? And maybe he is, like we say, maybe we just don't see it. Like you pointed out, I think his name's Ben Taylor. He got demoted, but why is Scott Foster still in this league? Why is Scott Foster an NBA referee?
Well, that's a big thing too, because he was part of the freaking scandal with
Tim Donahue. He had a lot of text messages
where
with
they
him.
had like a whole bunch of calls, and it was like right after games that he would officiate, and then all of a sudden when Tim Donahue was kind of like brought up on charges, like all those phone calls stopped. Like, do you think that's just a coincidence? Like, my guy was just giving Tim Donahue a call after every game to be like, hey, how do you think I should have called that one? Like, come on, folks.
It's probably, did our bookie place the bet right?
If it smells like dog shit, there's probably some crap somewhere around. You know what I'm saying? Like,
100%.
how is that just allowed to be like swept under the rug? And I'm not a conspiracy theorist, whatever, but if you want to consider or keep up optics, that should have been an easy call. I don't care how great of an official Scott Foster is or has ever been. If he was in the same vicinity or had any kind of dealings with Tim Donahue and in that case, and it was ever a doubt, get him out the league. Get him out the league.
You're telling me there isn't a vast pool of officials that you can hire another referee to officiate NBA games? Like, it's not, you're not keeping Scott Foster because there's nobody who can replace him, right? Like, what the fuck is going on? Tallman, are you familiar with like the Tim Donahue stuff and everything that happened there?
Yeah, they had some documentary on Netflix. I watched that.
Yeah,
it was interesting. I enjoyed it. Man, so it's such a bad look for the league, because you have players.
Great point.
You have star players out here, not getting a call, losing a game because of it, holding up his hand, doing the money gesture. Luka Doncic, granted he paid for it with a fine, but he's basically implying that the refs are paid. And then you have all these other NBA personnel that are saying the league is rigged to a certain extent, which, that's such a bad look. I mean, I'm not sitting here at all saying I don't think the league is fixed at all. I mean, not at all. Not even going to say it. And then going back to the Suns, you have Devin Booker coming out saying that the refs have an agenda against the Suns. He thinks that they're not getting calls because they don't like the Suns. And is it because they didn't like Robert Sarver.
So I've heard that, right? The punishing Sarver, yeah.
Yeah, because they didn't like Sarver. But then, then you have all of everyone else coming out saying, well, the Suns players are just complaining. The Suns coach is just complaining because they lost the game. So they're blaming it on officiating. And going back, you said people like Bickley was like, hey, you guys need to stop complaining and just move on and play. I kind of feel that too. And then the game last night, Devin Booker shot more free throws than the entire team they played. He got all those calls. So is it, I know we said we're not conspiracy theorists, but is it a makeup? Is he getting the makeup calls? Is he finally getting those superstar calls like, Giannis, like we watched just before we started streaming? You sat there when Giannis drove the lane up to the rim, and you're like, how is that a foul? No one barely touched him.
And they got waxed by the Celtics. They didn't even look like they should be an NBA team. They look like they should be competing in the Final Four right now. That was brutal.
But back to the Suns, it's, okay, so when we lose, we're going to blame the officials because we shot 20 free throws and the Lakers shot 46 or 45 or something in the one game they played. But then when we win, and there's
not a peep, right?
Yeah, but obviously we shot more free throws than the Timberwolves. But I don't know. I mean, it's you can't put too much on officiating. It's in every sport. I mean, these people are human. And then if you're going to go out and do a Van Vliet and say whatever this and that, I mean, it's a bad look. But hey, it's something you got to do, right? He got demoted for it. I think he also blew another call. I forgot what the team was, but he didn't call a foul on the last, and it decided the outcome of the game. And I think that's when the NBA was like, "What, we gotta shut this shit down."
That's a great point. I guess it shows you that they are taking a look at this, and they are seeing when the officials are not making these good calls. And the 2-minute report has been a huge thing these past couple seasons. But Mike, it's no consolation to hear the day after that they missed a call that could have changed the outcome of a game, right?
I wish the 2-minute reports would just be shredded or burned.
Keep it internal. Keep it to yourself.
Send it to your refs. See what mistakes you made. Adjust from there. But I don't need to see it because we had some of those early in the year as well. I think that Trailblazers game where, oh my goodness, what's his name? The big guy with dreads, Jeremy Grant. He traveled into the final shot where he made it, and they said, "Oh yeah, it was a travel." Well, you didn't call. Are you going to rescind the game and then basically wave that off and give us the win? No, you're not.
And would you want that?
No, but then what's the point? But keep it internal, exactly like you said. I don't need to know about it, and I don't care. Obviously, at the end of the day, teams don't lose because of officiating. They lose because of not adjusting to what is being officiated. And that's what the whole game is about, man. You have to make adjustments on the fly. And if you can't see that, you're going to lose games. And that's what the Suns had done the past couple of weeks. But officials are, they're human just like everybody. So we'll try and give them the benefit of the doubt. They're just the easiest punching bag at the end of the day. I mean, like you guys saw, freaking JT Real Muto is freaking pulling his glove back because the pitch before the ump had thrown the ball to the pitcher, and the pitcher was like, "Oh, I don't like this ball," so then he tossed it away, and then Real Muto had put his glove back and then was like, "Oh wait, he threw it back to him before," so then he moved his glove while the ump was trying to put the ball in his hand, and then he tossed him immediately. Did you guys not see that?
I didn't. I heard about it, but I didn't watch it. And now that you're explaining it, that's absolutely fucking ridiculous.
It was the goofiest thing, and it was just because the guy thought that he was being disrespected right there. So they make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes, but the team has to adjust at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's excessive for baseball. Imagine if the NBA was officiated like baseball, because in baseball you can't argue balls and strikes. If you argue balls and strikes, you're out right away.
We saw that college game where the two egregious
Did you? So
pitches.
That was horrible.
I just saw something where the guy said he was getting the umpire was getting beat up the entire game because that call was in the 9th inning, and he said he just wanted to go home. I think he got fired.
He definitely. I know. I wouldn't be surprised if he ultimately.
But he came out and was like, he just wanted to leave. The whole game, he had the fans were screaming racial slurs at him, and I believe he was black. And he said he's never been in that scenario before, where he was just so uncomfortable He knew he mismanaged the game and said he shouldn't have called that, but he said he just wanted to leave that. So that was his response.
I mean, if that's the case, that's horrible, right?
Yeah. Oh, terrible. But I mean, you don't. That just makes you want the electronic strike zone.
Yeah, honestly, and I think honestly, these two sports are the only ones where we really see the officials having so much of an impact. Are basketball and baseball, because the NFL rules are pretty black and white, and there's the deciding plays are usually reviewable.
Well, I mean, we had the holding call in the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah, that was a huge call.
Or lack thereof.
And then you can even go back a couple of years ago, that same non-call in the Saints-Rams.
The Saints, yeah.
NFC Championship game.
They made a rule.
Those are really one-off comparative to the two sports, I'd say. Yeah.
Because, you can, can't you challenge pass interference now after that? I think Sean Payton made such a big poo-poo about it. They, voted on it at the owners meeting or whatever, blah, blah, blah. So I think you can do that now. And they just had the owners meeting here like last week, and they decided not to vote on roughing the passer calls being able to be challenged or reviewed. So that's another one. Tom Brady, if you even, he doesn't play anymore, but if you even sneezed on Tom Brady, you got called. But then if you're some backup, you can get smashed and beat up and abused, and you don't get the flag ever.
That's true.
So, but the Super Bowl one is crazy. That ref probably had the biggest balls to ever throw that flag in that scenario where the game could potentially be on the line in the Super Bowl in the last, the last 3 minutes, 2 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, man, you got to have some balls to throw that flag. And it was a penalty because the dude came out, I forgot his name, was Bradbury, came out and said, he said, yeah, that was...
James Bradbury?
Yeah.
Yeah, the cornerback for the Eagles.
Yeah, he came out and said it was a penalty, but...
Yeah. So all's well that ends well. But let's talk football here. I mean, you mentioned Sean Payton, the former Saints coach, now the current Denver Broncos coach. Hindsight's always 20/20, of course, but I know we haven't seen what Jonathan Gannon has done yet for the Cardinals, and it's not all on him. I mean, personally, I'm not very impressed with the direction the Cardinals are heading, but I guess I'll throw it to you first, Mike. Would you have almost preferred we get Sean Payton over what we're stuck with now in Jonathan Gannon?
No, I mean, it's so early in the tenure. We're still trying to figure out things. I mean, we haven't even got to the draft yet, but this could be showing the cards in regards to what the true plan is for the Cardinals this year. I mean, sorry, guys. I think it's a tank year, even though we don't want it to be. The biggest thing with that is you're missing your star quarterback to start the season, and we really don't know how long he's going to be out. And with the signings that we've seen, especially at the quarterback position, bringing back David Blau, what's the plan? And it doesn't seem like the plan is to really win games, which is always a tough thing to see. But, you're looking at this list of free agent new guys that we brought in. Kaiser White has his ties to the Eagles. Same with Zach Pascal. We got Josh Woods, linebacker from the Lions, Chris Barnes from the Packers. Finally got some cornerback support with Rashad Fenton from the Falcons. And then we just kept some kind of special teams guys with Zeke Turner and Corey Clement. Did bring back Kelvin Beachum and Antonio Hamilton, but this is almost like we're in the position of it's a throw it out year, which is always tough as a fan. But we just have so many holes and so many things to figure out. And I know that you guys were talking about, do we even have a playbook yet? Kind of odd, but when you were behind the 8 ball with the hiring itself, it's going to take some time to figure those kind of things out. So good thing is we do have time so.
Right, and we're still 4 months away from the start of the season and preseason, and we haven't even had the draft yet, which is happening later, coming up in April. I don't know, man. I go back and forth on Gannon. At first, I really didn't have a good first impression of him. If you go look at our TikTok, he had that weird interaction. Shots. Explosive. With, who was that? That was,
Rondell Moore.
Rondell Moore. There you go. Thank you. And so kind of a weird, kooky guy, but he seems. He seems at first glance like an improvement over Cliff Kingsbury, who just seemed like a deer in headlights his entire time with the Cardinals, and really emphasized his awkwardness on Hard Knocks, and really I would say his inability to be a head coach. I don't know though. Like, I start to get turned off when he says that he didn't see or hear the comments Kelvin Beachum made on Kyler Murray needing to grow up. How could you not see that? How did nobody text it to you and be like, hey man, did you see this? Like, you have, 52 guys on your roster or whatever more during the offseason, but how do you not know these things, especially when those comments were made while he was still technically a free agent, and then we re-signed him shortly thereafter, and the only guy that defended Kyler Murray there was Hollywood Brown, who appears to be a bit immature in his own right. So it sounds like the sentiment is there that Kyler Murray needs to, and excuse my language, mom and dad, he needs to grow the fuck up. Tallman, do you disagree?
No, I don't. And I like the way that Beachum put it out there. And I know I said this before when we talked about it on the stream. I wish he would have done it more internally,
Sure,
rather than going out and doing it on a prominent radio station here in Arizona. Does he? Absolutely, he does. He needs to be more accountable for what he does. I mean, he's the face of the franchise now, and he has been, and he hasn't been acting like it. So I think that's what Beachum kind of meant by that is, and he could have worded it differently, but
sure,
and he's got the leadership, but he needs to really step up to the next level and be that guy in the locker room, be that guy for the franchise. Yes, he does need to grow up. He needs to be more of a leader.
Yeah, I'm sad that we're not going to see a full season this year of him having the opportunity to do that, because part of me believes that he does have it in him. Kyler Murray has shown the ability to compete at every level he's played at so far, but the criticisms, in my opinion, are justified. He's thrown temper tantrums. He's given up on his team at certain times, and quite frankly, he's underperformed in this league and for this team so far, despite having, especially last year, a handful of offensive weapons at his disposal. Granted, Zach Ertz was injured last year, but Trey McBride had a great rookie year. You had other options. You have DeAndre Hopkins. You had Hollywood Brown, Rondale Moore. These guys aren't slouches, man. And I want to talk a little bit here before we finish out about if we're even going to have DeAndre Hopkins at this point, or if we're going to be trading him, or part of maybe a draft day trade. But more broadly about this team, Mike, you brought up, is it a tank year? It absolutely is a tank year, and they've shown that with their offseason moves. You can't tell me with the signings they've had so far that they're trying to be competitive at all. They're not.
No, and you can even talk about the talent that we had who were going into their free agency with Zach Allen and Byron Murphy. I mean, two guys who probably signed under market value of what we thought, especially Byron Murphy, only getting about $11 million a year from the Minnesota Vikings, and we're talking that we can't pony that up. That must have meant that they're not part of the future plans for Monty Ossenfort and Jonathan Gannon, which is an odd thing. I know we've talked about it's always good to keep kind of those homegrown Valley guys within.
He got less than 11 million.
What is that, 2 years, 17.5 million?
Yeah, 17.5,
Wow.
2 years.
So they were obviously not part of the future plans, and they're still trying to figure things out. I mean, what kind of offense they're going to run. They got in their offensive coordinator so late, and, Jonathan Gannon is a defensive-minded guy, but... yeah, those ones are always tough to see. Exactly like I'm saying, Byron Murphy, $17.5 million over 2 years. You're telling me we couldn't do that?
Well, we probably did though. He probably didn't want to be here.
That could be
come
the
on. He probably didn't want to. He probably saw the bullshit and dysfunction going on with the Cliff Kingsbury era, and he's like, I'm out. I'm going to go to the Vikings where they treat their players good.
And he was sick.
They don't have a dysfunctional coaching staff.
And he was sick of having to pay and have his meals deducted from his paycheck.
Well, but that also doesn't mean that those things weren't going to come to light and be changed in the future because of these new NFL reportings.
Fair.
You think that's going to happen next year, guys? You think that these guys are going to have to go in there and pay for a cup of coffee?
It can't happen now, or Bidwell just looks like a fucking idiot.
Or else if that happens next year, then you're talking about losing even more free agents that you possibly could sign. You have to make adjustments after that. Like, they have to go in there, they have to fix the training facilities. They have to do all that kind of stuff because it literally has been posted around everywhere, and now there's a reputation that comes with it. So in the future, unless you're drafting guys and keeping them around, if you want to be able to sign your J.J. Watts, not at the end of their career, but guys in their prime coming here, you got to make those adjustments. But it's just crazy to see. Like, oh man, I keep coming back to Byron Murphy. The guy was an Arizona kid, man. He went to high school here. Like, you can't tell me he doesn't have extended family here. And even though there would be some kind of dysfunction, you're getting that out now. You can make those adjustments. I still have a feeling it came down to the dollar signs. Well,
I don't know about that.
You don't think we wanted to pay him 2 years, $17 million?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's
easy.
How could the Cardinals not want to do that?
They're not paying anybody else. They haven't paid a single person. They have a ton of cap room. Well, how would you not pay that?
But maybe it's that they don't want to be competitive in the next 2 years. Well, so why waste the money on a guy who's going to be a good quarterback?
So with the whole competitive thing, look at the Jaguars. They were like 2-14, and then the next season they had a winning record. So football is one of those sports where you don't have to tank for multiple years. You don't even have to tank for a single year. It's that type of sport where if you put the right guys in the right spot, you have the right person calling plays, and they're not fucking Cliff Kingsbury, maybe you can figure it out. So there's no tanking for multiple years.
Well, at least now we have an OC, right?
Well, yeah, and then also, yeah, we didn't really put out there the playbook. Your two backup quarterbacks want the playbook. Where's the playbook? Oh, they're chomping at the bits to get the playbook. Give it to them. No, just worry about getting in physical shape. That's all you need to worry about right now. Dude, the off-season program starts April 11th. That's in less than 2 weeks.
At this point, I consider Colt McCoy our starting quarterback.
Yeah, no, he is.
And when we're talking about not getting Kyler back to the middle of the season, I get he's coming off an injury, he's rehabbing, but it just goes to show you there's no urgency to be competitive in the league this year by slow rolling him. And this is another topic I want to roll into here and have you guys talk to me about is with Kyler Murray maybe only playing half this season, I think this is a chance for Jonathan Gannon to evaluate him and see if he really wants him to be the franchise quarterback and the guy that he sticks with, or if we end up, God forbid, trading Kyler Murray. Do you think if he plays 7 or 8 games that's going to be enough of an evaluation period to decide if we keep Kyler Murray?
Yeah, it's enough of an evaluation period because the guy already has 3 years of tape. I don't think you need more than that, really.
I don't think so. I mean, he's going into a new system, a new playbook.
But Cody, the whole reason we got him was because of Cliff Kingsbury, and that was his guy.
Yeah, but you always knew that work. You always knew. Okay, so you get Cliff, then you get Kyler, and then so who we got to see one of them without the other. Obviously, it was always going to be Kyler.
Sure.
So Kyler going into a new system. And he can't even start day one in training camp and do a full training camp under that system and practice. He's going to miss the first 9 games, 8 games, I'm sure, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then he comes back. Or even then, say he misses 8 games. We're 2-6. They're not going to rush him back. He's not going to be, I can't wait to get back on the field to play for a team who our season's already ruined.
2-6 is generous in my opinion.
Yeah, but they're not gonna. Let's wait till we see the schedule. It might be 0-8.
Yeah, okay.
But no, he's not even gonna rush back. He might miss the first 10 games, and then when he gets back, he's not gonna risk his health at all in any of those remaining games of the season. It's not fair to him in a new system. Doesn't even get to go through training camp. He can't even participate in the off-season program and actually do. He can't even practice with the team. It's not fair to him. He's going to need, and it sucks because it's always, let's always find an excuse for Kyler to.
And that's what you're doing.
No. Okay, so Two different sides. Yes.
I'm not
Yes,
willing to give him the
but then
benefit of the doubt like you are, Tallman.
I understand. Because last it was, Cliff Kingsbury really did not help develop him at all and didn't do blah, blah, blah. So Cliff Kingsbury held him back.
With a ton of stars around him, a ton of weapons around him.
Yeah, but I mean, it all starts at the top and it trickles down. And it all starts at the top where it falls apart and trickles and crashes to the floor. So first excuse was Cliff Kingsbury. Our second excuse is going to be this injury and him going into the new system. So no, they're not going to trade him. No one's going to even want to take him. Why would you want to take a guy that's coming off of one of the biggest injury of his entire sports career, and he's undersized, and he hasn't proven that he can even do the job in the NFL. So no one's going to trade for him. We got fucked.
Is Tallman contradicting himself right now?
No, I'm just saying. Hey, I'm just putting out factual. So how I see it,
you're right. He's underperformed.
Yeah,
he's undersized.
But they're not going to sit there and say, "Oh, you came back for the last 7 games of the season and you sucked and didn't try, so we're going to trade you." No,
you do.
They're going to go. Well, Bidwell's going to go. Well, we still owe him all this money, and we got 0 phone calls that are asking about him. Well, do you want to trade him? No, he's in it for the long run with us. So.
But if you can unload him for pennies on the dollar, if someone's willing to take that contract, like...
Well, yes. You didn't throw that out there. I just don't think it's possible. I don't think it's not possible to get rid of that contract. Who's going to take that on?
Yeah, it would be tough for anybody to try and invest in him right after this season. I think it would depend on how he looks from when he comes back from the injury, but... That's also a high contract. In the grand scheme of things of what quarterbacks are going to get, you can say that we did get a benefit of the doubt or the benefit of the deal, I guess, in that part. But what kind of player is he going to be? He's a guy who's predicated on his legs and what he can do with that. And if he doesn't look the same and it looks like he lost a step from that ACL injury, you lose all your value that you can get from there. So what it sounds like is that Tallman wants the Cardinals to stay put at the 3rd pick and draft Anthony Richardson, right, Tallman? That's what it sounds like. You want Anthony Richardson, huh?
No, that just doesn't make sense. Do I as a Cardinals fan? Because guys, we're sitting here talking about a team that ESPN came out with the power rankings. We're number 32. We're talking about. Oh
man.
What the biggest sports news whatever shit in America thinks we're the worst team in the NFL right now. And mainly that's probably because of our lack of action and free agency, which I'm sure that's what it is. But we're probably arguably the worst team on paper right now going into this 2023 season. So as a fan, do I want something to look forward to for the season? Because right now I have 0 to look forward to. Oh, I can't wait for week 1 when Colt McCoy rolls out there and we lose by fucking 21 points.
Dude, I'm going to have a panic attack if that's truly the way that they go. And they're going to be like, Colt McCoy is the guy for the first 7 weeks.
Like, sign somebody, man. Even Baker Mayfield.
Why haven't they done that?
Fuel on the fire. I don't know.
This team is making me want to beat my head against the fucking wall. Like, this Austin Fort Gannon era is not off to a good start.
So the only reason I can think they haven't signed or brought in a quarterback from outside, because how do you sit there and go, oh, you're a new coach for this team, and you go, hey, David Blau might be the guy. We saw him play two pointless games, and he didn't even look that great. Oh, we were all wowed because he threw the ball down the field, which we never did. Oh my God, David Blau didn't do a screen pass every other play. That's incredible. I wonder what happened there. But for them to sit there and think those 2 guys are going to be okay, the only reason I can believe that thinking in their minds is okay is because they think Kyler Murray is going to be back sooner than what has been reported. So they think, maybe Kyler's back week 5, and we just need these 2 guys, or 1 guy, probably Colt McCoy, to get us through the first 4 games. Maybe we can go 2-2 or 1-3, and our season's not over. That's the only reason I can think, because you can't sit there as a businessman, being Michael Bidwell, and saying, "This is great. We're going to sell so many tickets and make so much money with David Blau as our quarterback." They got to know something that we don't know. So that's the only reason why. Well, why wouldn't you sign a quarterback that would make you competitive right now?
Well, from Bidwell's perspective, like you pointed out earlier,
Somewhat
he's not
competitive.
worried about selling
take
out
that
the
back.
games because he's eight games a season. He's going to sell out all of them regardless because there's plenty of Rams fans that are going to want to buy tickets. There's plenty of Chargers fans that were going to, like, you name it, whoever we're playing, their fans that live here in Arizona are going to pay to go watch them at State Farm Stadium no matter what. And that's why it feels like an away game when we're playing at home, and probably a large reason why we suck so much ass playing at home. I think there's more questions than answers right now, and a lot of us are left scratching our heads when it comes to these off-season moves and the outlook of what we're seeing here. And when Jonathan Gannon plays dumb and acts like he doesn't hear things or he's not releasing the playbook, it's not building a lot of confidence in the fan base.
Or acting like DeAndre Hopkins is really going to be a part of this unit
Or that.
next year. I mean, come on, man. I know it's for optics, but him coming out and saying, well, I'm going into it as, the thought that he's going to be the X receiver. Like
he's
what
never
are you talking
like
about,
he's never
dude?
had a conversation with Monty Ossenford.
He's going to be our X receiver for sure.
Like, the guy is halfway out the door already. It's not like he's even here training at all. Like, he's in Texas. He's freaking gone. He's doing his real estate stuff. Like, DeAndre Hopkins will not be a part of this team next year. And if you keep him on the roster, I wouldn't be surprised if he holds out and is one of those guys. He just strikes me as one of those guys. Like, they've already had discussions about this. So for him to come out to the national or to the Arizona media and just play dumb, like what you've been saying, Chris, it's just a bad look overall. I'd rather him go out and say, we're looking at options, we're trying to find the best solutions to move forward as a unit, instead of being like, yeah, he might be our best receiver next year.
So do you let him go for a 5th-round pick?
At this point, dude,
at
get
this
him out
point-
the door,
Oh,
man.
I disagree.
Goodbye.
Get him out
Fully
the
with
fucking
you guys.
door, man.
No.
No, like...
No,
there's
he's
been
too good of a talent. You cannot
I don't care
let him
about
go
the
for
talent
fifth
at this
round.
point,
No.
especially with what this roster has been made.
How did that
to
work
be.
for us last year?
He's
What does it
under
matter?
contract. No, because they're just blowing smoke up the Cardinals' ass right now. They're trying to just fuck with the Cardinals right now, saying, because this and that and his suspension and he's kind of old. He's only worth a 5th-round pick. So that's the only offers that they're getting right now. So what Monty Ossenford needs to do is he needs to go, nope, it's fine. Nope, we're just going to keep him then. And yes, he's going to hold out. But who gives a shit? You're not paying anybody else money.
Listen to what you're
No,
saying.
listen. No, someone's gonna come by and say, you know what, Cardinals, we'll give you a 3rd-round pick. We'll give you what you want. That's what they need to do. They at least need to try to do that. If they let Hopkins go for a 5th-round pick, I will be pissed.
Hopkins isn't a 26-year-old receiver in his prime. He's
We traded a 1st-round pick for Hollywood Brown.
We just have to start looking forward. For
5th-round pick
What
is
happened in the
trash.
past happened in the past. We already know that whole regime didn't know what the hell was going on. There's a reason they're not here anymore. But sometimes you just have to clean house and reset and restart and set your own examples here. Where it's like DeAndre Hopkins, we traded what? A couple of 2 second-round picks for, or
David Johnson.
David Johnson,
I-
who
and I
completely is
don't
out of the
remember.
league.
Yeah.
Not even
Garbage.
Even when he went to Houston,
Oh,
he
that
was
was-
worthless. Like,
That was a highlight of
we
Steve
still
Keim's
won
career.
the trade, right? We got some
Absolutely.
good production out of DeAndre Hopkins, but it's time to move forward. He's already he was already getting into it with Kyler Murray on the sideline. He was already missing huge pieces of this season to start when this was supposed to be the year that we took the NFC West. He's already had injuries to end the past 2 seasons, which have set him out. And if we're talking about a team that's going to be a bottom feeder and the worst team in the NFL, why don't you just dive headfirst in it and not even give him opportunities to maybe win some games for the Cardinals? Just go freaking 1-15. At this point, with everything that's happened with this team, man, it is bottom barrel expectations. I hope they win 4 games this year, man. But if they don't, are you surprised with what has happened? No. Then try and rebuild through the draft next year. Get a number 1 or 1st overall pick, 2, top at every level, at every round. Start rebuilding. Maybe start gaining some notoriety from Jonathan Gannon as a good guy in the locker room, and Monty Ossenford start pulling some random things or some magical moves and that kind of stuff. And then go from there. Having DeAndre Hopkins right now doesn't do anything for you, man.
No.
We already saw what happened when he was with Colt McCoy last year. It was fat L's all the time.
Tom, and I hear what you're saying.
I got a rebuttal, so go ahead.
But real quick, I hear what you're saying because on paper, right, DeAndre Hopkins is still a really, really good
top 10
receiver.
Of
top
course.
10.
But this
higher,
isn't
higher.
This isn't
Yeah, 8
NFL
or 9.
Madden 23. This is real fucking life. And at this point, DeAndre Hopkins is a cancer in the locker room. And you're talking about him holding out? Fuck that. I would much rather have a 5th round draft pick than a guy who's going to hold out and be a nuisance to my team.
I'm with you on that. A nuisance to your team that's going to win 3 games.
Right.
But no. So my whole reasoning for that whole part was, So this happens every single year when it's a month before the draft. All these teams go, "Oh, our draft picks are so valuable. Oh, but if it's 10 months away, I'll give you whatever the hell you want." Right. So they're getting lowballed like crazy right now. So when the best offer you get is a 5th round pick, or maybe it's a 5th and a 6th, you go, no, thank you. We're just going to keep them. And then you're going into training camp and someone goes, another team that has an actual chance to win goes, shit, we'd really like him to be our number 2 receiver next to a Stephon Diggs, or maybe he's number 1 in Kansas City. And they go, you know what, let's go for it. So then they come up to Cardinals and go, hey, yeah, we'll give you a 3rd round pick for him. And the Cardinals go, sold, he's yours. That's what I'm saying. So when you come up to the draft, everyone, because it's right in front of you, you have all these picks and all these shiny pieces that you get to choose from of, prospects. So you don't want to give up them, or you think they're more you want to give them up, or you think they're more valuable than they are. So that's why they need to hold on to him. If it's only a 5th round pick, and you need to hold on to him until he's not going to report on April 11th. We already know that. He's not going to show up to the offseason program.
So you're saying we should trade up for CJ Stroud?
Hey, from a fan perspective, I already told you. You already said Anthony Richardson. I said that would be really interesting.
No, dude, we're tanking for Marvin Harrison Jr. That's what we're doing.
Okay. But no, so that's what I'm saying. You need to hold on to that because he's an asset, right? And you need to get as much as you possibly can
He's
in
an
return.
ass. You got that right.
Well, yes, he is. And shit, I bought his goddamn jersey. Why did I do that?
You seem to do that a lot, man.
Whatever.
Football
get a
jerseys
personalized jersey or something.
Football jerseys are a horrible investment.
They
the way
really
these
are.
guys
They
come and
really
go.
are.
No, and Tallman, you're exactly right. We're prisoner of the moment. We've been hearing that DeAndre Hopkins has been basically out for a couple of months now, and it hasn't happened. So we're sitting here thinking, well, why hasn't it happened? It's exactly like you're saying. It's because the Cardinals are getting lowballed. They don't have any of the leverage right now. I understand that. I wouldn't be surprised if it maybe ends up being something on draft day with a trade. Maybe that will be when one of those teams triggers that 3rd round pick or whatever. I get that. My biggest thing is Jonathan Gannon coming out and just acting like he is really going to be part of this unit next year.
He had to, man.
Well, no,
I
you
don't. That's bullshit.
It's lip service, man.
I know,
He
but fuck the
had
lip
to say
service,
that.
I need
man.
real.
Start
I
being
need real.
yourself.
He had to
Yeah.
say that because nothing's concrete.
Why did
right
he have
now.
to say that?
Stop being
Explain to me
yourself.
why he had
Because
to say
he's
that.
not the general manager. He doesn't make those choices.
But he's acting like he's
He
never had a
coaches
conversation
who's
with
on
Monty
his
Austin
roster.
forever.
Yeah.
Does he not talk to Monty? Do
No,
they sit at complete
yeah.
opposite
I
ends of the
but it's-
facility?
But it's not his business. And then if he comes out and says, "Oh, he's going to be traded. He's not a part of this team next year," then that shoots the Cardinals in the
He doesn't
foot
have
at
to
the
do
same
that. Mike
time.
already gave him the
Well,
answer.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You come out and you say this team is currently under evaluation. We're still working through the free agency period. We're obviously seeing what we have with draft capital. So our roster is ever changing.
You can give a
You
non-answer
don't have
answer.
to say DeAndre
I
Hopkins
get
is
it.
my ex receiver when we
But
know he's not.
We know that, but you can't go out there and say he's not going to be a part of the team.
You don't
Dude,
have
you don't.
to.
I'm saying you
Yeah,
don't.
because
you
Hopkins-
don't say that
but-
he's not going to be a
but
part of the team,
Hopkins-
but you don't say that he's my number 1 receiver.
Dude, he's new to it, man. What do you expect?
Well,
but
a bad
Hopkins
start.
hasn't even.
I don't know what else
Right.
to
Hopkins
say.
hasn't even
Right.
come out
Or-
and said he hasn't even requested a trade yet. So you can't go out there and say anything that alludes to him not being on the team or him being on the trade block and he can't come back. He has to go.
You dance around.
And that's why
you
they're getting
dance around the
fifth-round
question,
pick
man.
offers.
You dance around the question is all I'm saying. You don't come out and say he is still like our guy. Yeah, he's on the roster. I get it. But we all know what's the inevitability here. And here's the other matter of the fact. Like, I don't really know DeAndre Hopkins on a personal level. I've just seen what happened in Hard Knocks or like interviews and this kind of stuff. Do you think that he was part of the cancer within the locker room?
Yes.
Because I wouldn't be surprised if he was.
Well, he's too good to practice.
A contributing factor to that.
Too good to practice.
So we're already talking about, we got the top guys out that were the damaging factor with Steve Keim and Cliff Kingsbury. You need to start pulling all those little tumors out as well. And one of those has got to be DeAndre Hopkins. And I know that we've already talked about, I've given him his flowers. I've given him his praise. I'm very appreciative of the time that he was on the Cardinals and that he spent. But it's time to move on. And it's time to not act like just doing the right lip service and saying, well, he's on a roster, so he's our guy still. I'm planning to move forward with him. No, just answer on the question, my guy, and say we're working on figuring out what this roster is. And that should be sufficing enough to everybody.
So say even more generic response.
Exactly.
Than throwing him praise and saying he's going to be my top guy.
Yeah.
I get it.
I don't want it because he's not going to be here.
I don't know.
Yeah, and Mike,
was it stupid? It was totally just like him saying he won't give the playbook to his quarterbacks yet.
Yeah,
it's dumb. He said some stupid.
It's a bad
shit.
look. Gannon is not off to a great start. He's had moments where I've been like, maybe this guy, but overall, no. And to your point, Mike, about him being potentially cancer in the locker room, DeAndre Hopkins, especially through Hard Knocks, has come across as a guy who cares way more about his individual stats and his future Hall of Fame candidacy more than winning games and the team that he's on right now. So if I'm Monty Ossenfort, if I'm Jonathan Gannon, I'm having those conversations and operating under the assumption of DeAndre Hopkins is not a Cardinal next season. And whether it's holding out until we can trade him or trading him, that's yet to be seen. But one thing is for sure, from my perspective, I am so fucking sick of the Cardinals being the laughingstock of the league, the conference, whatever you want to say. It's time to turn this ship around, and it's going to be interesting. I know we can all take a deep breath here. We're going to wrap this up here. I want to keep having these conversations.
Can you believe we were 10-2? Like what, 2 years ago we were 10-2?
No, it seems like
wow.
It seems like 10 years ago.
Oh my goodness.
What happened after the 10-2? Didn't DeAndre Hopkins get hurt?
Yeah, he got hurt before the 10.
He got hurt or suspended?
He got hurt and he got hurt. I was at that game. We were 7-0. We played the Packers on Thursday Night Football. He got hurt in that game. We lost that game because AJ Green couldn't turn around.
He didn't turn around.
Yeah, remember
so
that.
we were 7-1, but then we ended up going 10-2 after the 7-1.
Man, just
without him.
I love that we're speaking passionately on this. It means we care. We obviously want to see the Cardinals do well, but it's just the path that we have to take to get there. And I personally am so disappointed with how this offseason has gone, and just we're automatically throwing in the towel just because Kyler Murray is starting the season injured. But guys, it's getting late here on this Thursday night. We're at about an hour, 40 minutes into this podcast. I think a little longer than we anticipated, but Michael Benjamin, first I'll pass it to you. Is there anything else you wanted to say or get off your chest before we get out of here?
No, man. Excited to see what's going on with the Diamondbacks this year. Obviously, this one has shifted on opening day. We are now down 7-2, but that's all right. We'll figure it out from there. Excited to get the NFL draft up. We'll see what happens with the Cardinals if they do move down. I know Tallman was saying he expects them to. I'm honestly probably on the same page. Add some more draft capital couldn't hurt. I really do hope that they end up getting Will Anderson, though. So we'll see what happens with that. Suns playoff run. We're going to have a PTO with a playoff preview and all that good stuff. So we're hitting you with a whole bunch of content. Make sure you stay tuned. And, man, we squeaked in the March one right at the last minute. So appreciate you guys, as always.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like Mike said, it might be at the last minute, but we're getting you one of these Heat Check podcasts every month. We did it in 2022. We'll do it here in 2023. You can also catch us on our YouTube channel. Just search Valley Sports Plug on Google, and you'll find all of our shit. But Tallman, I'll give you the floor. What do you got?
Yeah, last thoughts. DeAndre Hopkins is going to be our ex receiver. Just kidding. No. Opening day. Let's go. Baseball's back. Keep an eye out for that Tallman ticket if you want to lose some money.
Let's go.
And yeah, that's a wrap.
Hell yeah. I'm excited for the baseball Tallman ticket to see what that looks like. But yeah, Suns playoff run, I think, is what I'm most excited for. We cannot have a repeat of last year where we just fall flat on our face and end up getting bounced out in an embarrassing fashion. We got Kevin Durant now, man. And so as long as he's healthy, as long as him and Booker are healthy, those two guys, I think we have a shot of making a deep run. And I'm going to say it right here, right now. I'm predicting Celtics Suns in the finals.
Ooh, Celtics.
All right, I like that.
We'll see. So
Just because how Giannis got dicked down.
oh, dude,
today?
they embarrassed Milwaukee, and they had way more of a bench presence. And the Celtics only had 3 players available on their bench, and they still waxed them by, I think, 30-plus points by the end of that
41.
game. 41 was
140 to 99.
holy shit.
So you're bringing it back to 1976 with Gar Hurd.
Sure.
Who the hell is that?
It's when the Suns played the
Okay,
Celtics in the
okay.
NBA
All right.
Finals.
There you go.
You're showing your age over there, Michael.
Hey, for all you guys listening, if you just learned one thing, at least you said that you learned one thing. So
That's what it's all about.
appreciate all
Absolutely.
y'all.
And if you made it to the end of this podcast, thank you so much for listening. Make sure you continue to tune in so you can stay up to date on what we're thinking and everything going on with Arizona sports. But for Michael Benjamin and VSP Tallman, I'm Chris Patrick, and we will see you next time. Peace.